so I could send you a link. There we go. We are now recording.
Hi, this is Michelle Weidenbender. I call myself the Chief Hope Builder, and I minister to moms of addicted loved ones, many of whom have children who helpers that accompany their substance use disorder. And so I want to introduce Clinton today from Remedy Live, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what he does to help people with mental health disorders. And I guess you're based out of Fort Wayne, right?
That's right. We're here in the mighty city, the Silicon Valley of the Midwest, Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's right. And
Yeah.
we've been in operation as a nonprofit for 15 years. So it's been fascinating to see. Remedy started the same week the iPhone came out back in 2007. I only know that because I was one of the geeks in line to get one that first day. And I've just watched our mental health and our mental wellness and escapism and so much just take over our society. And that's why I was really grateful to be able to talk to you today, because addiction has many faces, and they're all sad because it takes us away from a life well lived.
Oh, so true. Yes. And I guess, wow, 15 years. So is this, it looks like you have a hotline. Tell me a little bit more about what you do and how maybe a mom who is struggling with her own mental health because of trying to cope with this, or how she can help her child through your services. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so probably the easiest thing to do is just say that we do have a 24-hour texting line, and it's a texting line, not a phone voice line, because when we first launched it nearly a decade ago, our goal was that we would have people available to serve students, and students at that time even were preferring the texting option over the talking option. And so we were innovative in those days in that we were one of the first in the country. Now there's a lot more text to chat options in the nation. But yeah, a mom listening to this who's finding herself discouraged, caught in despair, battling things that she may be dealing with, there are always people that just love supporting, love providing presence. We always tell our clients, we're here for you. Like, we're here for you to share what's currently causing you struggle. And around Remedy Live, we have a phrase called the secret struggle, which is very generic because all of us struggle in different ways. Some of us struggle with issues of addiction and dealing with a constant pull in the wrong direction. Some of us deal with the struggle of self-esteem and insecurities that lead to significant thoughts of depression and even thoughts of suicide. And so we're just here to chat with anyone via text that is going through a tough time. And they can reach our texting line by texting the simple number 494949 from any phone within the United States. We serve people in every country. We just had our 11 millionth interaction this last year. So we're available through that texting line, but we're also available by someone going to our website at remedylive.com if they want to use their computer keyboard and chat with us that way. But we are open 24 hours a day. We are free. We are not counselors. We are just trained listeners, and we're committed to helping people know they're not alone.
How are your listeners trained? That's so impressive, because sometimes we think we need all these degrees in order to give somebody support. Yeah. It's something I teach my moms, is how to listen, empathetic listening.
Love it.
And so can you just share a little bit about how they're trained?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would go back to even the recruiting. We are looking, and I would say this to your moms, we're always looking for people to come work for us. We're a paid organization, so we are looking for paid employees to work for us. But it's a unique role because we love redemptive baggage, we call it, people that have gone through hard times and been able to find hope on the other side to be able to help provide hope to others. We've tried over the years. We've had probably 200 or 300 staff work for us over the years that Some of them, it was just too hard because it's very draining to talk to someone about suicide on a regular basis like we do here. But we're always looking for people that want to use the redemption that they've gone through to be able to help
Gotcha.
somebody else with theirs. But the training is it's very specific to what the FBI or the CIA would call a motivational interviewing style, asking leading
We
questions.
teach that too. Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to let people talk through what it is that really they need to get on. I don't know is one of the top answers in America, right? For
Yeah.
how are you, and or
Yeah.
you're fine, or you're good. But
Yeah.
we want to get to the bottom of that. So that would be the biggest thing that we'd want to emphasize is we want to be able to be good question askers, but then orbiting around that, we want to be able to do the proper thing, specifically around suicide prevention. So we are assist trained, we are QPR trained. We've been blessed. Oh my goodness, all 15 of our years have given us the blessing of having licensed psychologists, therapists, counselors darken the door of our. We have video studios here in our building, and we do a ton of video training with our team because we're kind of unique in that, you mentioned it really well that you train your moms. We don't want to be another institution. We want to be a relationship. We don't
Oh,
we don't
yes.
want people to feel like they've got to be something to work with us, or to not work with us, but to be our client. We just want it to feel natural.
Right.
And so for us, we're letting story lead that. So what is your story? And would you be letting me allow to share my story so that we can see, not only God's story come out of that, but how all of us are in the same thing called life and we need one another.
Oh, it's beautiful. So such a good segue. What is your story? So why did you start this 15 years ago? What prompted you, and how did God, open those doors?
Yeah, well, I am a product of a lot of dysfunction and struggle. My parents met at an early age. Should have never been married. My dad was abused as a child. My mom was abused as a child. My dad abused my mother, and then once they divorced, my mom collected husbands. So I had five dads growing up, and I started using at 11 to be able to cope with the pain, just alcohol at the beginning, and slowly evolving into smoking marijuana, and then experimenting with a lot of different things. Now, I know some of the people that in the recovery world. I would never call myself a full-blown drug addict, but I was addicted to escape. I hated
Sure.
reality, and I was in a lot of pain. And so because of that pain, I just always looked for, love in all the wrong places. I was addicted to sex at a young age, and addicted to a lot of things, pornography, anything that could take my mind off of how bad it was when I was sober. But for me, at the age of 18, I had an encounter for the first time with the God of the universe who created me. And you can imagine, when you've lived a messed up life, you probably believe in a messed up creator. And for me, I wanted a different life. I didn't like the life I had. And I'd never met anybody that loved God and gave me the reason to want that for my own life. But
Mhm.
I had one friend who was a Christian, and he had been with me through thick and thin. Lots of struggles. He wasn't a partier himself, but he would always come to the parties at the end of the night to make sure that I was alive and that I was okay. And we'd
Good.
lost a common friend to alcohol poisoning, and he just never wanted that to happen to me. And he really took me under his wing. He's the one who showed me at 18 that there was a God who sent his son for me, and his name was Jesus. And the
Wow.
more I investigated, I learned this wasn't just a story. This was the truth. 2000 years ago, Jesus really came and gave power to billions of people since to
Yeah.
overcome the lies that we believe as human beings. And so once I started to realize I was created for a purpose by a God that was orderly and structured and founded on truth rather than opinion, I jumped in wholeheartedly. And it wasn't too much after that I knew that I was called to be involved in ministry to help people know that they also mattered. I've always been attracted to messy ministry ever since those first days. I tried to work in the church for about a decade, and it was fun, but I always pushed the envelope and wasn't always embraced as the wineskin of choice. And
Little
so,
bit of a rebel, were you?
and rebel might be the right word. I was just dumb enough to try.
Yeah.
And then I was really grateful that in 2007, I was invited by a dear friend here in the Fort Wayne community, Shar Binkley, who was leading WBCL Radio Network at that time, to start something new. You know her story probably without you even knowing her story, but her grandson was Nate Mullering, and
Okay.
Shar Binkley wasn't yet ready to tell me that her grandson was using heroin,
Mm.
but she was willing to tell me that we needed to start doing something differently to reach people, especially students with secret struggles that were a lot deeper and stranger and more difficult to navigate than things that we thought were the problem. And self-harm and thoughts of suicide were starting to grow among teens. And when she asked me if I'd be willing to join her, I think I did say no a couple times because I thought even I wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah,
But
sure.
upon saying yes, and starting in June of 2007, um, I have had the privilege of creating this organization with God's inspiration, and we are just so grateful to be caught up in talking about things that people just don't talk about because we believe there is a remedy, and His name's Jesus.
Yeah, awesome. I'm curious, that friend who was always there at the parties at the end, are you still friends?
That question's been asked to me a lot these last few months.
Hmm.
Um, Ironically, it's not that we aren't friends, and it's not that he is weird or anything, but about five, no, maybe closer to 10 years ago, Al, his name is Al, Al pulled away from the traditional church model, and he was a pastor. He retired from the pastorate, and he became kind of a recluse. He lives up in
Oh,
northern Canada. I'm from Western Canada. He lives in the northern Canada where the Inuit Eskimo people would be, and he is happy living without electricity. He's happy with living without
wow.
the internet. He's not reachable by phone. I keep in touch with him very casually through his mother, who is getting older in years, and I'm nervous about that. And Al has yeah, after his kids grew up, he kind of decided to get off the grid, he and his wife, and they don't.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah,
That's
but
that'd
I've
be
been
worth
asked
an
that so
interview.
much recently. I don't know what God's doing there, but yeah,
Hmm.
maybe I need to make a trip.
I don't know. Interesting though. Yeah, where you were going with that. I was like, oh, I wonder. Yeah, but yeah, very, very cool. So do you well, just going back to the Nate Mullering, when my son was in a part of his recovery, um, Nate was his care team, not a care team
Sponsor, kind of.
sponsor, but he worked with them in the Fort Wayne recovery.
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, at that time, our son wasn't totally committed.
Yeah.
But when I would talk to Nate, I'd be like, Nate, can I talk to your mom? So that's how everything I do kind of started, because it was like, I appreciate you, but I need to talk to your mom because
Yeah, no, I get it.
it's a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
But Nate was kind of like my my introduction into so much, and he was just so patient and calm. And so I never would have thought I'd be way over here. Like, I don't know how many, maybe 5 years since I first met him, that I'd be sharing this interview with you and talking about Nate again. But
Wonderful.
fortunately,
Love it.
our son and daughter-in-law are almost 3 years into recovery right now. So
Wow.
it inspires me to keep going with what I'm doing. And so I guess if there's one huge thing, and I don't know how you could possibly answer this, but so often with addiction, there are dual diagnoses. There's an underlying mental health disorder with the addiction. And as we know, addiction is a brain disease. And so sometimes they're stuck so badly with a disease that they have upside down logic and their brain is just so they just can't, there's no common sense there.
Mhm.
So and if they don't treat the mental health disorder first, they can't really get to the, addiction, but they have to almost stop their substance use in order to deal with the mental health. Such a conundrum. And I try to help moms just say, listen, I don't like the whole rock bottom thing. Let them hit rock bottom because I think that's horrible. That's death. I have been studying the craft method of recovery, and I love how they come alongside and meet their addicted loved ones where they are. But how do we get somebody who's so sick and sometimes psychotic to even think rationally about their mental health to get them to find help?
Yeah, well,
How-
you're right. It's a dichotomy of choosing to no longer use, which again is why it's called addiction. It's not easy to do that. And then it's also important to renew the mind, right? And
Mm,
at Remedy Live, we're often called mental health missionaries because we go into public schools and we go into workplaces and we talk about mental health, but really the goal is to talk more about identity, not just about mental health, because we believe that mental health defined is the strength biologically of the brain to translate circumstances and relationships to define my self identity. And you and I both know that if we've had really hard circumstances, we have a higher, like myself, higher propensity to want to escape those circumstances as something that will help us feel pleasure or feel good or
mhm.
not remind us of the pain. Likewise, relationships, if we've been abused or we've been unloved. Are you familiar with the adverse childhood experience study? Have you
The
kids see the
aces,
whole
yeah, yeah,
ACEs? If we've
right.
never been emotionally connected to someone that should be connected to us, then we grow up also with this imbalance. And so identity for us is a major part of that. And that comes out of talking like you and I are
Mhm.
about our story and how long have we believed this about who we are and who they are and trust and all these. And if you listen to Nate's story, and ironically, I just listened to it again this morning because I sent it to one of my colleagues in the 27-minute interview that we did with Nate a few years ago, as he shares his story. Here's a guy with a great dad, a great mom, a great set of grandparents on both sides, great siblings, great school, great. Everything's great. But Nate wasn't great with himself.
Yes, that
He
was our
got,
son. Yeah.
yeah. And nobody ever asked him that when he was a kid. They just assumed, in fact, they would often say, what a great life you have. And he would say, yeah, you're not living my life though. I don't feel great here. I always feel like I'm just not, I don't fit.
Mhm.
The only time he fit when he was high, because then he was living that life that he don't expect that he should be living. And why would he ever be sober if he could live the life where he felt like he was finally himself, right? It wasn't until that addiction took over and started stealing who he really was, which was the Nate we now know, this fighter, this
Yeah.
ferocious,
Yes.
very smart, passionate person that he has become now because he finally figured out who he was. But giving people the permission to talk through those things, I know there's a lot of I don't knows, and there are
Sure.
some people that don't want to talk about it because that
Yeah.
trauma is triggered and they go down this really dark path. But it's got to be done in community, like you said earlier. It's got to be done in relationship, and
Where
there
there's
has to be a willingness to fail
where they
too.
feel safe, where they
Safe.
feel safe, that
Yeah,
seen, heard, understood, and not judged.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's the same for my moms when they get in the group. And judging is not judging is one of the most difficult
Yeah.
um, things. And I don't even mean in a negative way. We have this write, read, and listen in our group that somebody leads, and we try not to judge even if it's a positive thing, like because it's still a judgment.
Sure.
But anyway, that's a whole different.
No, you're right though, because what you've just emphasized the condemnation that comes from that, if even subtle or even hard to fully grasp verbally, that is just enough, just that small minutia enough to keep us quiet in what we call, again, our secret struggle. But
Yes.
likewise, the love, the acceptance, the permission, the forgiveness, those small steps also move us in the right direction. And so we just have to be committed to that, the person that we're engaged with, if they are in addiction or if they are caught in. I just interviewed a mom about an hour ago. Her daughter at 11, through one of our programs, they get school tour program that we do in schools. Her daughter shared with her for the first time with the mom that she was struggling with self-harm and thoughts of suicide for the last 5 years. And she shares this on camera here in our studio this morning. They have been growing their relationship. Transparency is the number one rule. Nothing can be said that's going to condemn you or cause you to have to, leave, or like we're done, anything's up for grabs. And then just this commitment that we will love through it all. And what does that mean, right? Like what to a teenager is love a smartphone? Is it a car?
Yeah.
No, love means you will always have us. We will always be in your life. And
It's not conditional, and it's not punitive. Like, if you tell me this, I'm not going to punish you.
exactly.
Yeah. But it's a very difficult concept for moms to learn how to do. I guess one last question. I feel like I could talk to you for a long time, but I know we both are busy people. So the people that listen on your phone,
Called soul medics. Those are our
oh, I love that word, soul medics. I love it. Did you create all the jargon for your company? Are you creative like
as
that?
I've already, I hope you've heard me say, it's the inspiration the Lord's provided, because I ain't smart enough to come up with this stuff.
Oh, I doubt it.
God has been very kind to me to give me lots of ideas. Now, ideas I've got a lot of. People that will listen around here, not too many.
Okay. Well, how do your people, your Hope medics, or
Soul medics.
yes, do they ever engage in, do they ever have tears, empathy to the point where they express sadness with the person on the phone, or is that something that they try not to do?
Oh, okay, that's a good question, because I think the thing that sets us apart from other text lines or crisis lines is that we understand that our staff are real human beings. They're not just employees. And so it's very common for us to give our team sabbaticals because empathy burnout has hit home, or it's just too hard. Like a typical 3-hour shift in our chat center, and all of our software, we create our own software so that everything is governed and mediated by us. That soul medic may chat with, in a 3-hour shift, 8 different people with 8 different suicide plans. And we generally will help one person who's actually got a suicide plan in play once every 3 hours. So although in the 3-hour shift, we might talk to 8 people that have suicidal ideation, during those 3 hours, one person's going to get a 911 or emergency services care sent to their home because they've reached out to us via our Google ad campaign and they want to come out of that. Now, if they don't want to help themselves, then sadly, we do have to get police involved to get them safe if they won't let us help them. But all that to say, that's extremely hard for any human being, even through a text relationship, to bear. And we typically, although I don't want to pretend that we don't hire people that have gifts in other areas, we typically will, again, only hire people that have compassion and have that type of burden for others, because we've gone the other route where we've hired people that have answers
Yeah.
and it's callous, it's not warm, it's not
Right.
accepting, it's
Yeah.
information, and Google can get to the information, but you can't always find someone that will give you 20 minutes. In fact, it's easier to get $20 than 20 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
So we see a lot of empathy burnout, and I'm not proud of that, because that means that we need to do more to care for our staff. Ironically, this is so ironic, Michelle, today our very first clinician was hired and started on our payroll today. She actually was in my office this morning for orientation. Now, as a clinician, as a therapist, her only clientele are our soul medics.
Okay.
So she will only
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have 30 staff, and that's all she's going to focus on. Those are her 30 clients.
Wow.
And so we're trying to do all that we can, because we're not proud of that burnout, but we also know that if we're going to encourage our team to share their stories and pray for these people and use the
Yes.
keyboard,
Be authentic.
yeah,
Yeah.
missionary work is hard.
I trained to be a hospice volunteer for a while years ago. And I was trained, it's okay to sit and cry with the family, with the loved one, with the person who is, ill, with her parents, or, just the family. Just be yourself and be authentic. But I have noticed that in my support groups, if a mother shares something that to me is just horrific,
Yeah.
and I react with tears or sadness, it will hold her back from expressing herself, because she doesn't want to be responsible for my sadness.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until she shared that with me that I had like this huge light bulb moment, right? Because so there is such a fine line, because I had that life where I was seen and heard and, loved. I had a great upbringing, but to her, she did not have that. So, but for me, I can't even imagine the life that she had. So it does bring, so much emotion to me, because, it's anger at the people who did this to her. It's sadness for her, that for her grieving the loss of it. So anyway, it's just so complicated, but thank you for giving us a glimpse into your soul medics, into what you do and your story. And I live just an hour away from you in the warm months, but I'm in Florida now. So
I think a blue sky in the background, reflection of one.
So, but when I'm back in Indiana, I definitely want to reach out. I would love to visit your studio and maybe do some recordings there. I might, we'll have to talk about that.
I'd like to have you as a guest. Please do check, when you get back into the area, give us a holler.
Yes, I will. And thank you. Is there anything else that you want to tell us that moms might need to know?
Well, I'm assuming that your audience is geographically kind of diverse. And so,
it's all over.
The chat center is obviously the biggest thing I'd want them to know. But we have school programs that we have grant money for, so it's free to the school. And these are very unique events. These are like we use smartphones and do interactive polling with the crowd. And actually, Nate and I have been architecting a brand new Get Schooled tour focus on escapism, substance use, screen time, identity, all of that. If any of your partners, your moms have influence to bring us to their community, again, we have the funding. We just need the invitation to come.
Okay.
And likewise, we also have a similar program, not just for students like I just shared, but we have a program for adults, churches, and businesses that does the same thing, and it's called the Wired program. And we would love to be able to serve any company, any church, again, in the nation that would like us to come virtually, like through our virtual software that we bring, or physically face-to-face if that's possible.
Oh, wow. That had just inspired all kinds of thoughts in my head. Because one of the things I'm launching a book, Mother's Day, Unhackable Moms of Addicted Loved Ones, Closing the Gap Between Havoc and Hope. My goal is to empower 1 million moms of addicted loved ones into recovery, because if I can do that, we can make a dent in the addiction epidemic, because moms can, in their communities, if they're gifted to bring your type of program into their community, like I'm telling them all the time, you guys, you have gifts, but you're
Yeah.
so stuck with your child that you're not living your purpose. You're not living your
Right.
dream. And so many of them are retired school teachers, just personnel that they see that need too. So you just never know. So that
And
was
I would
exciting.
say to that too, Michelle, like, and this is probably not going to come out right, and I apologize if it doesn't, but
That's okay.
when we focus on being the helper to a loved one, the enemy distracts us from the life that we've been given to live.
That's my book.
There, there you go. And so I totally applaud what you're doing and encourage and empower anyone hearing my voice to just get involved in helping those stories get told, because
Amen.
we actually can get more power to help our loved ones if we're involved in doing what our God-given calling is. So,
Yeah.
as you are.
That's what I tell them. So thank you for supporting me. And I look forward to, continuing with this dialogue and this friendship, if you will, in the future.
That's great.
So thanks
love
so much. And send me the recording so I can share it on my YouTube and my podcast. So,
I sure will. I
all
sure
right.
will. Thank you. You have a blessed day. Happy New Year.
You too. God bless. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.